Pokémon cards can get pretty valuable. These cards sold for jaw-dropping amounts in the past. Over the past decade or so, the value of Pokémon cards has gone through the roof. Cards that originally cost mere dollars to pick up are now worth tens or, in some cases, even hundreds of thousands of dollars. The record for the most expensive Pokémon card ever sold has been broken numerous times over the last 4 years alone, and has more than tripled during that time. It's gotten to the point where many of these cards are worth more than most people's homes. And what makes this all so staggering is that a lot of the rarest and most valuable Pokémon cards today were once fairly common and were owned by children all over the world. Perhaps had they known then what we know now, they might have taken better care of them rather than shoving them in their pockets, and heaven forbid, actually using them to play the Pokémon Trading Card Game. Watchers would be wise to go and check their attics after finishing this list, as they might just be sitting on a gold mine. Welcome to another episode. If you enjoy this type of content, then subscribe and hit the bell icon so you never miss out on any of our latest and greatest uploads. Number 10, World Championships 1999, number 1 trainer, $90,000. Considered by some to be the rarest Pokémon card in existence. A copy of the number 1 trainer card sold at auction for $90,000 in July of 2020. Given its supposed rarity, it's perhaps actually a little surprising that it didn't sell for more, but $90,000 is still a decent return for a card that was given out for free. The card was awarded to each of the 7 regional champions at the 1999 Pokémon World Championships in Tokyo, with an additional card somehow making its way into circulation. It features artwork from Hideki Kazama and is part of the Secret Super Battle promo set. Of the 8 copies of the card to have been graded by PSA, only 6 have achieved the perfect GEM MT10 rating. Number 9, World Championships 2006, number 2 trainer, $110,100. For whatever reason, number 2 trainer cards have always been highly desirable amongst collectors. And that is once again the case with the 2006 Pokémon World Championships variant. A PSA 9 graded copy was sold by PWCC for a little over $110,000 in February of 2021, making it the most expensive number 2 trainer card to date. This card was originally handed out to participants at the 2006 World Championships at the Anaheim Hilton and allowed players to return to the following year's event. Winning one wasn't easy, however, with players needing to reach the finals in their division. It's perhaps for this reason that the card sold is the only one to have ever been graded by the PSA. Number 8, First Edition Neo Genesis Lugia, $144,300. It's rare for a card released in the West to sell for crazy money unless they happen to be part of a base set. For that reason, the original owner of this first edition Lugia card was probably a little surprised when it was sold by PWCC auctions for nearly $130,000 in November of 2020. 6 months later, the price rose higher still when a Beckett 10 copy of the card sold for $144,300. There are 41 copies of the card to have received the PSA's GEM MT rating, although the current record holder was actually graded by Beckett and received a 10 pristine rating. Whether or not this sale will lead to other Neo Genesis cards skyrocketing in value remains to be seen, but prior to the recent movement, the average sale price of a first edition Neo Genesis Lugia had been just $70,000. Number 7, Family Event Kangaskhan, $150,100. Just 4 or 5 years ago, the Family Event Kangaskhan promo card was selling for around $10,000. In October 2020, however, a PSA GEM MT10 copy sold for more than 15 times that amount. The card in question was sold by PWCC auctions through eBay, with the final bid standing at a mammoth $150,100. The card itself was given out in Japan following a parent and child Pokémon tournament held in 1998. Families battled other families, with the parent and child teams who racked up the most wins being awarded the Kangaskhan promo card. There are only 11 GEM MT10 copies of the card in circulation, with a combined value of over $1.5 million. Number 6, 1998 second tournament trophy Pikachu, number 3, $192,000. For obvious reasons. There have been a lot more Pokémon TCG tournaments in Japan than there have in the West. As a result, there are a lot more promo cards in the series' native country, including a trio of 1998 Trophy Pikachu cards, which were handed out to participants in the year's second major tournament. What is a little surprising, however, is that the third place version is currently the most expensive. A copy of Trophy Pikachu number 3 was sold at auction in July of 2022, with the final bid standing at an incredible $192,000. It wasn't even a GEM MT10 copy either, as at the time of this writing, none of the 7 copies of the card graded by the PSA have achieved a perfect rating. There are 5 PSA 9 copies though, one of which is the current record holder. Number 5, Ishihara GX Promo, $247,230. The Black Star Ishihara GX Promo card was created to celebrate the 60th birthday of the current president of the Pokémon Company, Tsunukazu Ishihara. The cards were handed out to a handful of employees and friends, with one able to get their copy autographed by the great man himself. In early 2021, this card, which was subsequently given a 7 grade by the PSA, was sold by Golden Auctions for just shy of $250,000. Since 2017, just 8 copies of the card have been graded by the PSA, with only one of those able to achieve GEM MT10 status. Whether this would end up selling for more than the one sold by Golden is a matter of debate, as though it is in better condition, it doesn't have Ishihara's autograph, which may make it less desirable in some collectors' eyes. Number 4, No Rarity Charizard, $324,000. Base set Charizard has always been one of the most valuable Pokémon cards, but the No Rarity Japanese version is definitely one of the more sought after variants. A GEM MT10 copy of the card was sold for just over $20,000 back in September 2018, but the value of the card has skyrocketed in the years that have followed. In November 2020, a Mint 9 copy of the card sold at auction for more than $60,000, and another brought in around $58,000 less than 2 weeks later. Those prices were blown out of the water in April of 2022, however, when a mint condition copy of the card signed by Mitsuhiro Arita was sold for $324,000 by PwC. There are only 6 GEM MT10 copies of the card in existence, so it's easy to see why the sale price was so high. Number 3, Blastoise Wizards of the Coast presentation Galaxy Star Holo, $360,000. It's been almost a quarter of a century since Wizards of the Coast first pitched the idea of a Pokémon trading card game to Nintendo. Rumor has it that ahead of the pitch, the trading card company printed out 2 copies of a single card to entice the Japanese giant, Galaxy Star Presentation Blastoise. In early 2021, one of these 2 copies was sold by Heritage Auctions for $360,000. Such is the rarity of the card. Neither of the 2 copies known to exist have ever been sent to the PSA for grading. Had the card gone up for auction over a year or so earlier, when Pokémon card values were at their peak, this would have likely sold for more than $500,000 and broken the record for the most expensive Pokémon card in the process. Number 2, First Edition Shadowless Charizard, $420,000. Controversial YouTuber Logan Paul made headlines in October 2020 when he spent $150,000 on a first edition Shadowless Charizard card. Perhaps surprisingly though, this is not the most expensive copy of the card ever sold. Actually, it's not even close, in fact. The current record holder comes courtesy of PwCC, who sold a copy of the card for a cool $420,000 in early 2022. According to the PSA website, there are just 54 GEM MT10 copies of the card in existence, which goes some way to explaining their value. Given that base set Charizard was produced in such high volumes, however, it's entirely possible that there are hundreds more copies out there just waiting to be discovered, if not thousands. Number 1, Pikachu Illustrator, $5,275,000. The Pikachu Illustrator card has held the record for the most expensive Pokémon card ever sold, on numerous occasions. The first came when a copy of the card was sold at auction for $74,000 in late 2016. But that's nothing when compared to the current record holder though, which belongs to influencer and WWE superstar Logan Paul. In July of 2022, the controversial YouTuber paid $4 million for the card, while also handing over a PSA 9 graded version with an estimated value of $1,275,000 to the seller. The card itself was handed out to the winners of an illustration contest held by the Japanese monthly manga Koro Koro Comics in 1998. Just 39 copies of the card were ever printed, and only 12 of those are known to be in good condition. Unsurprisingly, perhaps, Paul's is the only existing GEM MT10 copy, which explains its staggeringly high value and why Paul now holds the Guinness World Record for the most expensive Pokemon card ever sold. And with that, we've reached the end of this video, all about the most expensive Pokemon cards in the world. If you enjoyed it and you found it interesting, don't forget to leave a like and subscribe for more content just like this. Well, thanks for watching, and we'll see you again in the next one.